President Obama says he's not going to call Congress back to session despite the ailing economy. He said lawmakers should be at home listening to their constituents.
There's been a lot of talk in Washington right now that I should call Congress back early. The last thing we need is Congress spending more time arguing in D.C. What I figure is they need to spend more time out here listening to you.
All right, but my next guest is one of 4 Democratic lawmakers urging House leaders to end their recess and call Congress back to work. Congressman Jim Cooper joins me now live from Nashville, Tennessee. Nice to see you again, Congressman.
Good to see you, Christine. Thanks.
So you want them to come home. You think they need to come home. Tell me why. I mean, tell me why you think that this is something that is an urgent moment for America.
Well, I like vacation and time off as much as anybody else, but we need to get back to work. Our nation has serious problems. We've already had a couple of weeks off. Why don't we get back to the job? Because the time value of money is so great. Every day that we wait to solve our deficit problems, it's probably costing us another $14 or so billion a day. So I think it's time to get back to work.
You sent a letter to the leadership saying, you know, our fiscal and job situation is dire. Both deserve the full and immediate attention of Congress. We ask you to reconvene the House immediately, show the American people and financial markets that Congress can solve these big problems in a bipartisan fashion. Have you heard anything back?
I haven't heard anything back, and predictably, it's not going to be popular to call Congress back in with congressmen. But I think it'd be popular with the American people. You know, the president's right. We shouldn't come back to town and argue and bicker. We should come back to do real work. And it's really the job of the Speaker to call the House back into session. It's not the job of the president. We're a co-equal branch of government.
You mentioned the financial markets. The financial markets putting a great deal of pressure on Washington, on Congress, putting them on notice, quite frankly, that whether or not you want to disagree with the downgrade from S&P, the markets are telling us that the U.S. has to get its house in order. How much pressure are the markets putting on that group, those 12 lawmakers who have to agree on $1.5 trillion in either revenue or spending cuts?
You've already pointed out there's never been a roller coaster stock market like we've seen this week. We need to do our job in Washington to give security to the markets. It's not just the committee of 12 that's going to have to decide on this. All of Congress is going to have to vote by Christmas time on this package. And many congressmen haven't done their homework yet to decide exactly what cuts should be made. So I'm thinking it's time to get back to put our nose to the grindstone.
Who's most likely of the 6 Republicans and the 6 Democrats? You need one. You need one from each side to cross over so that there can be a package to move forward. When you look at these 12, who do you think is the most likely to be the compromiser, or the person who can leave re-election hopes, fundraising, and ideology behind to get something done?
Well, I hate to tell you, Christine, I don't see a single one, because they're all pre-selected to be hardcore Democrats or Republicans. And that doesn't mean they're bad people. They're all fine people. But they're unlikely to be able to compromise. And that means a 6-6 deadlock. And that means automatic across-the-board spending cuts that could be devastating, for example, to areas like defense, where most people think they shouldn't be treated like every other area of government.
Well, I mean, what you're telling me is a little troubling, because what we're really hoping is that this is not going to be a shrunken-down version of a dysfunctional Congress. You see the same levers and ideologies at play in this group of 12 that we had that caused the U.S. to be downgraded and all the problems we're having in the markets.
You're right. It's like a mini-me, a tiny little version of a dysfunctional Congress, unless there's sudden miracles and each one of them has a change of heart or something. But remember how they're selected. They're pre-selected by their party leaders to be absolutely true Democrats or Republicans. Now,
you are what they call, you know, a blue dog Democrat. You have long been, quote-unquote, fiscally conservative. You've been talking about debt and deficits to deaf ears, I will say, in Washington for a very, very long time. Can you tell me, from your perspective, why is it that this was ignored, the problem was ignored forever, and then now all of a sudden it has incited all of this ultimatums and grandstanding in Washington from when it was nobody ever paid attention to it before?
Well, nobody likes to listen to bad news. You know, Standard & Poor's started warning us about this 6 years ago. I got a book out on it 6 years, but nobody paid any attention. You know, it's really been since Ross Perot ran for president in the 1990s since America has paid serious attention to this. Remember, under Bill Clinton, we had 3 years of balanced budgets, the first since the 1920s. And then we fell into the ditch again. So this is not easy for Americans to handle. There's a lot of denial here, a lot of programs that folks don't even think are part of government, like Medicare, that are part of government, and we need to reform them.
In your perfect world, do you have reforms to the entitlements? You have tax increases for people, for companies, or companies who are people, if you're Mitt Romney from this weekend? I mean, do you have everything on the table? Do you have tax reform? Just quickly, I mean, in your perfect world, what should these people do?
Not only should everything be on the table, I think the Bowles-Simpson Commission did by far the best job of putting together a package. It's bipartisan, it's fair, and it attracted support from Dick Durbin to Tom Coburn. All
right, Jim Cooper, Congressman Jim Cooper from Tennessee, really nice to see you. And I'll tell you, Carolyn Alley, he's been talking about this for so long. He did put out a book many years ago called, you know, the Financial Statement of the United States Government. It was just basically the U.S. government's financials that he said, this is what it looks like. It ain't good. It can't go on like this. That was years ago.
Instead of writing the book, he should have gone to like these meetings and like gotten some congressman's face. That would have pushed the issue to the front burner.
I mean, some of his critics have said he's like, what do they call it, a one-note Johnny? And all he talks about is debt and deficits. All he talks about debt and deficits, but it works in his district because people in Tennessee are like, he's right. You can't just spend beyond your means forever. Now that same tone has taken hold in Washington, but not with people like Jim Cooper who are saying compromise, with people who are saying no compromise.
Well, let's hope he's super on that super committee. They're getting ready to tee up for round 2 of the PGA Championship today.